for the Rise of Skywalker, where were you at on the kiss moment?
Where was I with it? In fact, no one knows this.
So if you'll indulge me.
Sure.
You were feeling very confident. Everybody felt very confident. JJ was confident. Mm-hmm. Were you surprised by how divisive it was, the reception to it? Or in your heart of hearts,
was I surprised?
Yeah.
Daisy Ridley sat down with Josh Horowitz on the Happy, Sad, Confused podcast to talk about all the different projects that she's been working on, and of course, Rise of Skywalker and the upcoming Rey movie in 2026 made its way to the forefront. Now, I want to say at the front end that I was not a fan of the sequel trilogy like many of you. I did find that it divided the fan base because of its poor planning, its poor storytelling, its poor script writing, but it frustrates me that so many people take that out on the actors and actresses. I have nothing against Daisy Ridley. I actually think the acting in some of those films was fantastic, and we all know that great acting cannot make up for bad writing. Now, I want you to take a look at how Daisy approaches answering the question about these divisions in Star Wars because of the sequel trilogy.
Were you surprised by how divisive it was, the reception to it? Or in your heart of hearts,
was I surprised?
Yeah. One eternity later.
I think it's still upsetting because you don't want people to feel like you've not served the thing that they're a fan of. But Ryan's one was so divisive.
You think?
So, yeah, so it really felt like the first one was fairly, everyone was responsive in a similar way.
This works, thank God. Yeah. How did it happen?
And then Ryan's one, super divisive, and then the last one, super divisive. Yeah, it was still... Yeah.
Now, I wish she had just come out and said what we've kind of all been thinking, that the scripts were bad, that the direction wasn't really good, that there wasn't a plan, and that's the reason for this division. But of course, she can't say that. She can't say those things, but I think you even see some of the tension of thought as she's trying to think about how do I reply, knowing how divisive these movies have been. She knows the problems that were there. She knows that the movies were not as good as they could have been if we had come into it with a different direction. Even in that, you can hear as this interview goes on that there's still some glimmers of hope in her voice for what's upcoming, even though she was pretty confident that she might not be coming back as Rey. But that all changed after she sat down with Kathleen Kennedy. Take a listen.
Well, it probably makes it bittersweet because, you're saying goodbye to this amazing period in your life, and you want to go
change how I felt about it.
Right, you had the experience. You love these people.
And what was strange is, literally before I had breakfast with Kathy last year, I had already been on set because we were making Magpie right after Sundance, and I had 5 people come up to me and go, "Are they going to do any more with you?" And it was really strange. In the sort of 6 to 8 months before that, the way with which I was being greeted by people's response to it was quite different than it had been. Right. And I think just time had passed and it didn't feel so immediate.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. And so that was what was really strange, because people were talking to me about it. I was like, no, I don't think so. I don't think so now.
Yeah.
And then it happened.
No, I don't think so. Even Daisy Ridley wasn't so sure that she was going to reprise her role as Rey until she found out that it's happening again. When I can't blame her, because I don't think they should be running it back with these characters. With the way that everything ended and the way it all came to a conclusion, it kind of felt like there needed to be more space. But what I will say is she gives me some hope in this interview that maybe actually this could work out. And we'll get to that at the end. But before we get there, what did Daisy think about that kiss with Adam Driver at the end of Rise of Skywalker?
The one specific thing I wanted to ask about for the Rise of Skywalker, where were you at on the kiss moment? Were you like, this is going to work, or are we really doing this?
Well, we did one without.
Yeah.
Where was I with it?
And do you remember where Adam was? Was everybody in sync? Okay, or we're just going to try this. If it works,
well,
edit, great.
Adam had to rap and literally got up from that scene, which was so emotional, and everything was bye guys, I'm going to New York. So that was...
Yeah, he literally kissed you off. But
yeah. He was like, see you later. Yeah. I felt like we all it felt earned.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, again, I think it's like intentionality. My feeling in that moment was it was a goodbye.
Yeah.
So that felt earned. Because, I mean, you could call a kiss 1,000 things, but I felt like it was a goodbye. And that whole scene felt so emotional. And I felt like I was saying goodbye to the job. And
Yeah.
and then actually we had to pick up something that was missed. So on my very, very, very last, in fact, no one knows this. On my very, very, very last day, and we were doing various pickups and stuff, I had to literally sit and look, and the camera was like coming away from me, and I would guess I was looking at him. And JJ was like, "You good?" Literally immediately started like crying my eyes out because it really felt like goodbye. Yeah. And then I did such an embarrassing rap speech.
Now, I didn't have as big an issue as others did about the kiss at the end of Rise of Skywalker. I think there were so many other issues that by that time in the film, I was just kind of like, whatever, I'm done. I look forward to the future, and I'm like, I don't see a good future for Star Wars. I don't like how they're wrapping up the Skywalker saga. It's not leaving a good taste in my mouth, and I don't think it was just because of the kiss. And as I mentioned before, leaving those movies, I wasn't like, oh, okay, let's do more movies with these new characters. I actually thought, fine, let's finish it, let's reboot. And that's probably the same thing that Daisy was thinking. And as we all know, there is a new movie coming in 2026 starring Daisy Ridley. And listen to how she talks about this film that actually brings about, dare I say it, some hope.
So, okay, I feel like everybody, maybe you in your heart of hearts, or maybe not, thought at some point you'll come back. Like at maybe 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
So
that was my thought.
The surprise was the timeline. Like,
Yeah.
oh, like we're doing this.
Yeah.
We're doing this now.
I thought, yeah, maybe like in a little while, I don't know, pop in, say hi, pop out again. So the timeline was, was the surprise to me. I mean, I went to breakfast with Kathy, and honestly, I was just like, yeah, I think it's just breakfast. And then she came right out and said it. And I did think about it. I was like, I'm not sure, because it feels soon to me. And and it probably sounds like fake, but it's not. I feel really lucky. Like the stuff that I'm doing, I felt is interesting, and I've worked with such different filmmakers, and a job is a job is a job. So like if I love the script and I love the story, it's going to be great. And it will probably be different people, I imagine. Yeah. I don't know if it's the same or different, or
right. Like
so
crew-wise, you mean, and
crew-wise,
like
cast-wise, like
So you have no idea if like any of your
I
friends
actually
are coming
don't.
back. Yeah.
So it's like all a sort of adventure. So yeah, it's good. It's a good thing, and it's also like I was always like thrilled to be part of it, even when it's divisive, and even
with the social media horrible stuff, all the stuff you had to go through.
I feel like generally people are like good, and like I feel like people are receptive and interested. And honestly, if it wasn't a story worth telling, I wouldn't be doing it. But I was like, ooh, it's like a fun direction.
I certainly hope so. It is about time that we get good stories and good scripts back in Star Wars. And if that's the case here, if that's what's drawn Daisy back in, not just the money, not just the fame, but it's for that reason and that reason alone, I think that we could be off to a good start. But I'm going to be a little bit skeptical until we see it. I'm going to kind of hold back. I'm not going to get too excited, because it's also quite possible that all we get is another jumbled script, a poor plan, bad writing, and all of it together, especially on the heels of the controversy and the things that Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy has said, doesn't necessarily bring about great confidence. Disney has not been handling the IP very well, but I think that there is a solution. I think there is a way back to it, and it's great characters, great storytelling, great writing. That's what's going to make Star Wars great again. And if you want to check out a video where I go in depth about what I think they can do and learning from some of the successes that have happened over this Disney time, I think you'll enjoy that video. I hope I've earned your like today and possibly a subscription. You can find that down below, and I'll catch you over on that video here. Remember, the Force will be with you always.